And I would like to thank you, all of them, for your participation. You can hear in Canal 2 in English and in Canal 5 in Persian. I will change the language.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
It is my great pleasure and honor that today, in the company of the UN Special Rapporteur, Mrs. Asma Jahangir, who is one of the best known human rights defenders, who's been making every effort in this field for a number of decades now. 12 years prior to accepting this responsibility, she was a thematic special rapporteur, and currently she's the special rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Iran. As she has limited time, we will try our best to be efficient and make good use of our time. As you may know, this event is going to be taped. Those who may have special considerations, please place your hand up so that videographers and photographers do not necessarily take your photos or images. In order to ensure questions will go accordingly, I request that you please write your name down on the list for questions and observe the order. There are a number of questions submitted by the civil society, Iranian civil society, that I will start with. We will try to keep the questions brief, so that Ms. Jahangir can also take her time and explain everything in the most efficient manner that's comfortable for her. Rezwan Muqaddam, who is the spouse of Mr. Manjar Abadi, who served for 5.5 years in prison and was released in 1988. Was not released, I'm sorry, he was executed in the summer of 1988. She asks, Rezwan Muqaddam asks a question. She's asking on behalf of the families who have suffered losses during the massacre of political prisoners in the summer of 1988. These families have yet to hear about the fate of their loved ones. We haven't yet received their wills, copies of their wills. We cannot observe the anniversary of their execution. We cannot visit their resting places. Have the recent special rapporteurs on the situation of human rights, meaning yourself and Dr. Shahid, have you requested anything, made any references to the government of Iran? Ammar Maleki, a political scientist at Tilburg University in the Netherlands, the son of Mohammad Maleki, human rights defender, writer, and the first president of the Tehran University following the 1979 revolution in Iran. His father is unable to visit him in the Netherlands at this time. He's asking about the right to travel, in addition to all other human rights that are being violated in Iran at this time. He's requesting whether the Special Rapporteur will include the right to travel in her reports, in addition to other forms of human rights violations in Iran at this time. Atif Jahromian, a human rights defender, is asking, is the defense of human rights a crime? why are Nargis Mohammadi and Arish Sadeghi are arrested and tortured at this time and kept in solitary confinement. And the heavy sentence that they are facing at this time that have been issued by the judiciary in Iran. 6 years for Golrokhi Rai, the wife of Arish Sadeghi, whose crime was to write a story in her personal computer that was yet to be published. Isa Baziar, an expert on demining, he's asking a question. He's referring to the previous Universal Periodic Review. And reference to demining land around Iran. Over the past years, however, there has been no initiative or any project to take this recommendation seriously. And we continue to face individuals who are losing their lives as a result of mine explosions. Given these developments, why is it that in reports by Dr. Shahid and yourself, there's been no reference to the need to follow up on this UPR recommendation? Nasser Ashari, a civil rights activist and human rights defender, who has, over the past few weeks, I think that he has been in prison for over 2 months. He thanks you, Mrs. Jahangir, for all that you have done so far. Following hearing your report today through the UN webcast system, he's offering the following question, wondering why is it that after Mr. Copythorne, the Islamic Republic of Iran is preventing the visit between the Special Rapporteur and prisoners. He's inquiring what it is that the Special Rapporteur plans to do in this regard. Shima Silavi, a minority rights defender and representative of the Ahwazi human rights community in Brussels, is asking the following question. Her father, Youssef Sirabi, an Ahwazi Iranian citizen. Since November 2009, he has been kidnapped from his home. And over the past 7.5 years, why is it that the Islamic Republic has not looked into his kidnapping case? Why is it that the judiciary has failed to follow through with this case? And why is it that families must face these sacrifices? While Mrs. Jahangir is preparing to respond to these questions, for those of you who are here, please prepare your questions. Mrs. Jahangir, we are ready for you.
Thank you very much for those questions, and I think this is a very good idea to have an interactive dialogue, not just with people who can come here, but also those who are sitting outside of this building and who are concerned with the situation of human rights in Iran. As far as the 1988 massacre is concerned, it was brought to the notice of my predecessor, and he had still not worked through it because we need a lot of information before we can make some kind of a determination whether we go ahead with this or not. Because it's a question of time factor, it's a question of credibility of the information and the fullness of the information. I had made my report in November, and I joined, and my report was done rather quickly. It did not give me time to go into that very deep analysis and research of the 1988 massacre. I do understand that the timing of it is not important because it has been exposed very recently. So I will be looking into it for my next report, and I will then take a determination whether to include it or not. As far as right to travel is concerned, I'll be very happy to include it in my report, but I need more information. One person, yes, I've got that, and if there are more people who have been stopped from traveling inside or outside of the country, we can have a separate section on that issue as well, because that's the question of right to movement, as I talked about today, and very important right to movement if people want to leave their countries or re-enter into their countries. Then there was a question about, what was this about, computer and yet not published, huh? I don't. There was a question of why we did not follow up the UPR recommendation on demining, and I'm glad that it has come to our notice. There were so many issues to be dealt with. One will start looking at it and follow it up and see where it fits in our priorities, because as you know that our pages are limited and we have to work with priorities in the report, but certainly we'll look at it. I am aware of the fact that there are many people in prison, and my heart goes out to all those prisoners, particularly those who are there because of their belief, because of their conviction to human rights and their conviction to democratic rights. I think those are the voices that the world needs, not in prison but outside of prison. As soon as I am given access to Iran, which I doubt is on the cards at the moment, the first place that every rapporteur does visit is the prisons, and to find out what is happening there, because that is really a picture of the society itself. I have noted the case of disappearance. I have to look into the details of that case before I can report it. But thank you very much. There was one little thing about something in the computer but not yet published. It was the second query. Yes, of course. I have that case of the prisoner who had written in her book in her computer, which was yet not published, and I know that it's not just one case, there are many cases where you cannot even express to yourself. There is no right of privacy, and that I'm well aware of this situation. I'm well aware of the controlling nature of the structure of state, and I hope that with your cooperation and with the cooperation of the government, that we can begin to push the envelope a little bit so that some spaces do open up for civil society and for people to live in a more dignified manner.
With regards to this section, regarding the computer crime, I'm going to repeat that particular case. When they went to the home of Arai Sadeghi and his wife, Gorokhi Rai, the authorities removed the hard disk of their personal computer, and she had written a story, much like maybe something Salman Rushdie might have written, and this was a fantasy. It was a fictional piece of writing, and it was because of that story that was never published. She is now facing a sentence for 5 years of imprisonment. It was with regards to this case that a question was raised. I saw a list that had a long list of questions. There are two ways that we could do this. We could either circulate a microphone among the attendants, or we could place a microphone, a stationary microphone, and everyone could come to it. The first person may offer their question now, please. Zebde Puraghai can offer a question. Hello, Mrs. Jahangir and the participants in this room. How wonderful that we have an opportunity to sit face to face with you and share our questions. My question is particularly about the conditions that affect the medical rights of prisoners in Iran. My question is what lines of action in terms of offering our questions to the authorities in Iran or protesting for the rights of, in particular, religious and political prisoners in Iran to be able to access even the most basic medical care in the prisons. Those prisoners who are incarcerated because of their beliefs and have no access to medical care or even having access to their medication. This is something that I have suffered myself. I remember seeing my cellmate who suffered from diabetes and used to suffer in pain for hours at a time simply because she was deprived access to the simple pill that she had to take. I'm asking, are you able to transfer this information to the authorities in Iran and seek justice for prisoners who need medical care? Thank you. I request that you please keep your questions, offer them in more brief phrases. Mr. Puyakov, your question, please.
Hello. You rightfully had mentioned the high number of executions in your report in Iran, but in my opinion, the execution itself is the last part of a chain, which begins actually in the courtyard and with the judge. So we have always, the human rights activists, the United Nations and other organizations, we have always condemned and reported the executions. But actually the judges, like for example Judge Salavati, Judge Moghese, Judge Haddad, my own judge in Tabriz, Judge Hamdbar, to the minister, the judiciary minister, Pur Mohammadi, who is responsible for the mass executions also in the 80s. Is it not the time to bring them to justice? Is it not the time to force the Iranian government to bring these people to justice? Because if they wouldn't have the power to issue a death sentence, nobody would have been executed so far. Thank you.
Salma Fazi, your question next, please.
Yes. My name is Faisal Marmazi from Ahwazi Center for Human Rights. It's great to see you here, and we are located in south and southwest of Iran. And as far as everybody knows, the environmental disasters in Ahwaz, it's made the huge, horrific things for the Ahwazi. We know that the Iranian regime is famous about the execution when they implement and execute the people, but there are other ways to execute people where the Iranian media has said that yearly 50,000 humans are dying because of the air pollution, because of the water diversion that being made in Ahwaz. We have and desertification that made. About the prison, if we want to speak, there is not enough hospital in Ahwaz for the people who are sick, but we see the Iranian regime are building prison daily rather than building hospital. For the prisons, my father, who is 62, 63 years old, is the victim of the prison because of my activity and been tortured, unfortunately severely, and my cousin as well. About the prisoners, there are lots of known, but please, I have one question. In the 6-month report that being published by your office, we haven't seen anything, especially regarding the environmental disasters in Ahvaz. Please, can I request you, because Mr. Ahmed Shahid couldn't visit Iran any part, could you please visit the Iranian prison and the environmental disaster in Ahvaz, please? Thank you.
Well, can I just make a very quick reply? That if you will go and ask your government to give me permission, I'll gladly visit both. But I absolutely agree with you, and I have no doubt about it, that the last part of the chain is the execution. And this is what I tried to re-emphasize in my report. If you look, there is a whole section on accountability of judges and the independence of lawyers. And I am absolutely of the same view that unless and until you don't have an impartial judiciary, where the selection of the judges is done independently and where accountability of the judges is carried out independently, you can make as many laws as you wish. Eventually, if there's a judiciary that is sitting there which is completely in its own bent of mind, you will not get justice. Medical care and hygiene in prisons, I have extensively, thank you, but extensively I am communicating with the government and also receiving their responses for whatever it is. But anyway, that matter has been brought up several times.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. Jale Tabrizi, Siavash Hosseini, and Septipur Jahani are the next presenters, the next individuals to offer questions.
Ms. Jahangir, it is really a great honor for me to be here and participate with all activists here. Some I know and some not, but anyway, it's a great honor for me to be here. My question is about the rapporteur, special rapporteur reports that we had seen last couple of months. The last report of Mr. Ahmed Shahid that I personally read, there was no any kind of sources of our activity that we did, especially our organization was very active in the case of minorities, children, because this is one of our biggest issues, the education in mother language, and we are working on it in the case in Iran, outside, everywhere. But we didn't see any kind of sources that mention our activities. I'd like to know the answer. Thanks a lot.
Hosseini.
Okay, thank you very much for giving the time to ask me the question. I'm asking question from the Media Express news agency from Paris, from France. First of all, I'm very happy that you have been chosen as a special reporter, as a woman special reporter. I think that gives a lot of momentum for Iranian women looking for many issues which is a concern about them. And my questions are, first of all, Secretary General mentioned several times that there is a gross violation of human rights in Iran. I would like to hear from you about the challenges that you see for yourself to bring this issue to the public and also to the international communities. The second question is, recently there has been many news about the revelation of 1988 massacre of 30,000 people in Iran. And many families of these victims are looking for justice. What do you see for these families to helping out, which bring their voice for justice? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Asma, for your report and for your presentation. I think we're all very, very grateful that you have been taking this mandate and have been doing such a wonderful job already at the outset of the start of your tenure. You mentioned that you felt, in your presentation, you mentioned that you felt that there is a slight opening from the Iranian government and they have begun to respond to some of your communications at least. I was wondering whether you could maybe expand a little bit on this, and also if there were any responses, particularly to the case of the Baha'is, that you thought would be noteworthy to know, that could give us a little bit of hope against this very widespread persecution.
Well, the last question.
Again.
The last question first. I think the slight opening has been a willingness to engage by the mission here. The willingness to accept that there is a mandate. They may not like the mandate, but that it is there. Because they gave me very comprehensive comments. But the non-willingness and the non-acceptability of recognizing that there is an issue is the greatest problem. Because according to what they wrote, or their understanding of the situation is that the Baha'is are as free as anybody else in the world, and that there are usual human rights violations, but otherwise it's a perfect society, and that democracy is flourishing there because you have elections. So we are not still at the same page. We are speaking, but we are not speaking to each other. We are speaking across each other because we are not at the same page. We can only come to the same page when there is recognition. And I'm hoping that at some stage, because this is diplomacy, that some recognition on some areas may come, and then we can go forward in addressing them. It's not easy. As you know, the Special Rapporteur's task is always difficult. And whenever I used to go on an in-sit to visit in other countries, I was almost embarrassed because the first thing people would ask me is, well, you'll write the report, then what? And then I always had only one answer to give them, and that is this, that the mills of the UN grind slowly but surely. So it's not that you are going to get a windfall, but you may get gradually some changes somewhere, some realization. And I do feel that this experience has shown that in every regime there are always two minds working. So we are hoping that the one mind that agrees with the values of human rights will prevail over the other mind. Then is the question of minorities and children. You said in Dr. Shahid's report. I really cannot answer for Dr. Shahid at all. But all I can say is that I have read his reports and I find them absolutely fascinating, because it is through his report that I was able to grasp a number of things and a number of issues that were there. There are challenges. How do we meet the challenges? How are these challenges thrown at the public and the international community? The fact that these reports do get published, they get talked about, people are more encouraged to give information, and that information by itself percolates back into a kind of awareness within society, and then there is within society itself has its own dynamics of persuading their governments to change certain styles and policies. Eventually it will be the people in Iran that will be able to and are willing to, and I can see that happening because they are the most resilient partners in all this, that will be able to get their government to change mindset, because it's a question of mindset. It's a question of willingness to give up. It's a question of looking at vested interests that are formed up in so many years, and how you can get your rights and your legitimate rights back from those vested interests is not easy.
We have very little time left, and Ms. Jahangir has an engagement. We're sure there's going to be many more questions. With your permission, the next two people will offer their questions. Since she's given us time to be here until 4:45, we will continue with the next two questions, and if there are other questions, please do share. Reza Amiri and Karim Rahimi, it's your turn. With thanks, Mrs. Jahangir, my question is with regards to asylum seekers who leave Iran due to challenges they faced in Iran and are now in other places, in Switzerland and other places as Iranian refugees. These are difficult conditions. Have you thought about what can be done to assist them? Hello, Mrs. Jahangir. Before everything else, I want to thank you for all your efforts and labor. My question is, with regards to victims of the 1988 massacre in Iran, is there any hope that the Iranian authorities responsible for these atrocities will be brought to account?
I had already answered the question of, I've already responded to the question of 1988 massacre, and before I think you were here, and that was already answered earlier as well. It's very difficult for me to predict whether people will be brought to account or whether justice will be given or not. But what I do urge is that we never give up our struggle for justice. And that is something that we owe not to ourselves, but to our posterity. As far as the question of Iranian refugees is concerned, you're absolutely right. I will be beginning to look at it. Not only that, but the question of stigmatization of Iranians who are traveling, I will be looking at that as well.
Thank you very much. The rest of you who may have questions, please put your hands up.
Ms. Asma Jahangir, about the Iranian regime crimes, about 1988 massacre, I don't think so it's related to that time. Up to the moment, the Iranian regime is committing crime against the Iranian people, where the Shahin Mola, or the Iranian president consulted, I think, in the women's affair, she stated that the Iranian regime has executed the men of the Baluchi village in total for the drug trafficking. Can you imagine that all the men of the Baluchi village is being executed with the same accusation? I don't think so. I think we need to be more real about the situation of the people who are living in Iran. They are suffering from the regime who don't respect the humanity. So if we said, urge your regime, so he's not my regime. If it was my regime, I would stay back at home, and I'm not here to act as a human rights activist. He's not representing me because of the crime that perpetrated against the humanity. So please, we need you to be more strict against the Iranian regime. You saw them today. They are speaking about the human dignity and human rights, but they are first in the war in terms of execution. Thank you.
Before we begin, I want to just note a point. Mr. Nasser Ashuri, he was in prison 2 months ago, and he's been released. I'm sorry about my mistake, but he's now out and awaiting his court session.
Hi, my name is Melissa Javan from Women's Human Rights International Association, and I would like to thank you for your report. It was a fierce and courageous report. So my thanks first of all. And second of all, when it comes to the massacres, you spoke about it, of ADA. My question to you is, how can the families of the victims engage with you? How can the families of the victims provide you with the necessary information that you need?
I think that's a very good question, and I had hoped somebody would ask me that, because I do need information. I do have quite a bit, but there are still some gaps which I need to look at. And as you know, that we have an official address of the UN where you can send me every information that you want. I also have a personal email address which you can use, which is asmajahangir52@gmail. And so please feel free to send me whatever you wish to send me, with a copy always to the office.
Next question.
Mrs. Jahangir, I've been around for enough time to realize that the frustration that was expressed in this meeting is not going to be satisfied very soon until this regime is in power in Iran. But the fact that you've been able to start even being in the same room discussing the human rights in two different levels, passing each other, I think it's a progress. And the idea came to me just now because of the discussions, is that if the UN and the international community has established the procedure for putting on trial the criminal heads of states and ministers and other people in the International Criminal Court, is it possible to start talking about the judges that it was just mentioned, the crimes that these judges are committing, the innocent people that they're sending to the gallows? Is it possible to start a procedure to start this fear in the belly of these inhuman personalities? Maybe it can actually some effect, but I must say I'm very, very pessimistic, and I've been around long enough to know that there's very, very little hope. Thank you very much, and I'm glad you're taking these issues forward positions. Thank you very much.
Well, it is not my place to comment on it, except to say that it has to be systematic and grave human rights violation to be able to take anybody to the criminal court, and I don't see that yet happening in Iran, and I hope it doesn't happen. But a movement toward very focal movement, focused movement for accountability would help.
Thank you, Mrs. Jahangir. Thank you for your report, and thank you, Sudhir, for organizing this very interactive and constructive dialogue and session. I have a question here regarding the investigation about 1988. People are wondering whether you'll be open to having a meeting or a session where the families can actually sit down with you and talk with you in person. It's very difficult to understand the gaps of information that you're lacking and see how much and what they can actually provide you with.
I think it's better that first I at least familiarize myself. You must realize that I have only been here a few months on this mandate. So, and then we'll take it from there, and there may come a time when I may want to see the families.
سوال دیگری؟
Please go ahead. My question is not really a question, it's to share information about the harsh conditions that a number of dual nationality prisoners in Iran are facing. What are the mechanisms that can challenge the rulership of a specific country to uphold its responsibilities towards its citizens who reside in another country and may hold dual citizenship, but still have the right to return to their homeland and have access to their homeland without having to face the possibility of becoming a hostage. The Iranian government arrests these dual citizens, treats them as hostages, tortures them, and in return for their freedom forces other countries, such as in the case of Jason Rezaian, or other cases where governments such as the government of the United States or elsewhere, where the Islamic Republic guards force them to transfer $400 million from the U.S. government in order to return American citizens alive and well back to the United States. Unfortunately, the response on the part of foreign governments has meant that now there are other cases where there are Iranian American citizens, in particular the case of Reza Shahini, who's a student in San Diego, United States. He was living in the United States for 17 years. And he simply went to visit his very ill mother, and it may have even been the last time that he could see his mother in Iran. He returned there, hoping that based on the promises that were made by Rouhani's presidency and his office, that he might have the right as a citizen to return to Iran after a decade and visit his family. However, Mr. Shahini was arrested in July 2016, and since then he has faced horrible conditions in a public prison in a small town next to criminal prisoners in order to torture him. Rights as simple as going to library or contacting other prisoners, these simple rights have been taken away from him. There's Nazanin Zaghari, a UK citizen, UK Iranian citizen. There's Ahmed Reza Jalali. All these prisoners have written letters to people and the international community and have sought help and have testified to their innocence and highlighted that we are hostages taken by the Islamic Republic government. And even Mr. Shaheen in his letter has mentioned, please don't let the Iranian government abuse me in order to gain its own goals and aims. Mr. Shahini is on hunger strike. The fact that he's ill means that this hunger strike may lead to his death. We're quite worried about him. We are asking that you please share the message of Mr. Shahini with the Iranian government and ensure that he doesn't lose his life, because he's innocent and he's sentenced to 18 years because he had an interview with a TV station and now he has to face 9 years of imprisonment simply for that interview. Thank you very much for your report in particular. Thank you for your report in particular with reference to the rights of women and the issue of hijab. Thank you for highlighting these points. One question and confusion that I wanted to share with you. I'm not quite sure, because Iranian society is quite complex. And I think that's, I think it's about access to wrong information. I'm sure the correct information will share it with you, because I have faced this very same issue. The Iranian papers stated I come from California, but I haven't been in the United States since the year 2000, and other falsities that were published in Iranian papers. I want to ask you, how is it that we can prevent false information, misinformation, and propaganda to be prevented in Iranian papers. My other question is, many families have lost all their children in the 1988 massacre. An old woman who doesn't have anyone left, how can she contact you through the internet and other modern means to share information with you? I know a lot of people who would love to share their information with you, because the only way that they can talk to you is in person, because an old woman has no other means of being in touch with you. And there are people of all backgrounds and all classes. I really think that meeting with you in person would be the best way, both for you and for those who want to share information with you. Mrs. Jahangir, thank you for your wonderful report. I'm quite happy that this time a woman is a special rapporteur. With regards to prisoners, I want to share with you, as an Azeri Iranian, with regards to the right to learn mother tongue in addition to national language, national official language. This is something that's recognized in the Iranian constitution. It's now years that we're trying to access this right, and those who have defended it have faced torture, imprisonment. I will share an example with you that is current. Akbar Azad, who is a researcher and journalist, is facing 10 years of imprisonment and 2 years of exile. Another case who, these are all the cases that she's counting, all the names, and she's mentioning how they are facing exile and imprisonment simply because they have celebrated mother tongue or have celebrated the International Day marking this important right. These go back to the year 2014. Namr Somaratpur, whose case you're aware of, who was on hunger strike for a number of months, Mr. Siamak Mirzai, Habib Sasanian. These are poets. This was their crime. Their crime was to write letters or poetry with relation to the importance of mother tongue. I just want to say that in regards to these rights and wants of people, they are now put in prison for the crime of cessationist tendencies and acting in against the national security of Iran. Actually, they were just civil rights activists, but they're now accused of political crimes. Article 19 of the Iranian constitution talks about equality of all Iranian citizens regardless of their ethnic background, but this is not really the case. What we see with regards to ethnic minorities, these crimes and these violations are quite prevalent. Thank you very much for your presence here.
Well, thank you very much. I must rush to my other meeting. I take your point about consular access. Thank you very much. And just very brief comments. I do take your point about consular access, nationality issues, dual nationality not allowed by Iran. And thank you for giving me information about use of mother tongue and restrictions on it. And I hope that you will be able to send me some more material on it. And I do know that diversity is not one thing that people like who don't respect human rights values. Thank you very much.
Thank you.